we have finally reached the culminating portion of Chapter 5, which is Modular Arithmetic. We're about to create an entirely new number system using these ideas of divisibility and remainders, the mod idea. So the example we have in mind is a clock. If you say it's 7 o'clock now, and you ask yourself, what time is it 20 hours later? We don't say 27 o'clock. That doesn't make any sense. We say 3 o'clock. Every 12 hours, the number on the hour hand will reset itself. So we have to have a systematic way of getting from this 7 plus 20, which is 27, to the 3. A lot of times we call modular arithmetic clock arithmetic because this is one of the most straightforward examples. If it's 2 p.m., let's think of that in military time and write it as 1400 hours. 65 hours later would be 14 plus 65, which is 7900 hours. Every 24 hours, it's a new day, the clock resets. If we apply the division algorithm on 79 and 24, we get a remainder of 7, which means 65 hours after 2 p.m., it will be 7 a.m. Granted, it'll be a different day, but the time will be 7 a.m. Now think of the days of the week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all the way to Saturday, as having the numbers 0, 1, 2, etc., all the way up to 6 designated to them respectively. So, for example, if it's Monday, then that's 1. What will it be 2 years from now? What day of the week will it be 2 years from now? Let's not worry about leap years. Let's just assume that there's 365 days in a year. So try that. Pause the video. Come back. Okay. So we're going to need a little bit of definitions and a little bit of theoretical machinery to set up this powerful new number system called modular arithmetic. So our definition is, let's pick an integer n that's greater than or equal to 2. We say that m1 and m2 are congruent modulo n, which we write this way. Notice the triple equal sign, which doesn't mean equivalent anymore, logically equivalent. It now means congruent modulo n. And notice the mod n is now in parentheses instead of having mod between two numbers. So this use of mod is slightly different from what we've been doing previously in this chapter. So what does the definition say? M1 is congruent to M2 modulo n if and only if n divides M1 minus M2. We call n the modulus of the congruence. So think for a moment about what that means. Remember what divides means. So n divides m1 minus m2 is the same as saying m1 minus m2 is equal to nq for some integer q. And something that's going to be helpful a lot is if we just, for example, add m2 to both sides. m1 is equal to nq plus m2. In other words, m1 is m2 plus a multiple of n. In other words, m1 and m2 differ by a multiple of n. So how does this relate to remainders? Well, M1 is congruent to M2 mod n if and only if M1 mod n is equal to M2 mod n. So the mod here on the right side of this biconditional statement is exactly the mod we've been using. It's a function, you can plug stuff in, get an answer. This mod n over here, the new definition, it's a relationship rather than a function you plug stuff into. Okay, so we're gonna keep working with trying to disentangle the meanings of mod depending on the context. So now we're going to consider proving this theorem here. M1 is congruent to M2 mod n if and only if M1 mod n equals M2 mod n. Since this is a biconditional, we're going to have to prove it in both directions. Okay, so the first direction is assuming that the congruence is true. So we are assuming M1 is congruent to M2 mod n. And what we just said that means is n divides M1 minus M2. And as I wrote up here, I could rewrite that as M1 minus M2 is equal to NQ. Again, for some integer Q. If I apply the division algorithm to M1 and M2, I'm going to get remainders of R1 and R2, let's call them. And we know that both R1 and R2 are between 0 and n. So let's put this together and see what we get. NQ is equal to M1 minus M2, which if we subtract these expressions over here, we're going to get NQ1 minus NQ2 plus R1 minus R2. So you'll notice they factored the n out of those two terms. All right, so then what do we have now? We have NQ is equal to n times the quantity Q1 minus Q2 plus R1 minus R2. If we now solve this for R1 minus R2, basically what we're doing is we're subtracting this quantity from both sides, and we can factor out n as a common factor, which means we're going to get that R1 minus R2 is n times the quantity Q minus Q1 plus Q2. What that tells us is n divides R1 minus R2. But R1 and R2 are both less than n, which tells us that the absolute value of the difference between R1 and R2 is going to be less than n. So think about it. N divides a number, that number is less than n in size. The only way that can happen is if this number is 0. So R1 minus R2 has to be 0. Because remember, every integer divides 0. Every non-zero integer, I should say, divides 0. So because we proved that R1 minus R2 is 0, that means R1 equals R2. But what were these things? R1 is exactly what you get if you do M1 mod n by definition of the old meaning of mod. And similarly, R2 is the remainder we get when we divide M2 by n. So by definition, R2 is M2 mod n, which means we have proved equal the two things that we want to prove equal. That's one direction of this biconditional statement. The other direction, we're going to assume M1 mod n is equal to M2 mod n. By the division algorithm, we know that the remainder is going to be the same for both of these division problems, which tells us m1 is equal to nq1 plus r, and m2 is equal to nq2 plus that same r. These remainders are the same. That's what we're assuming for this direction of the proof. And again, r is between 0 and n. So if we subtract these equations, what we get is m1 minus m2 is equal to, once we subtract these and work it out, we get n times the quantity q1 minus q2. In other words, we have n times some integer gives us m1 minus m2. That's exactly what it means to say n divides m1 minus m2. And that's exactly what it means to say m1 is congruent to m2 mod n. So by definition, m1 is congruent to m2 mod n.